So the XFL's first weekend came and passed, and for the most part, I was extremely impressed. This was nothing like the XFL of 2001. The product seemed very polished. Of course, some of the players didn't seem very prepared, but based off of this being the very first weekend of the XFL, and based off the fact that most of these players haven't seen a football field for almost a year since when the AAF was in power, I was very impressed. Some of the things I really liked was the in-game interviews, the fact that they tried to get the fans every little bit of information that the NFL typically would neglect. For example, you would hear a coach's mentality when they were down a couple of points in a game. You would hear a kicker's mindset as soon as he missed a field goal because they would have an in-game interview. I really enjoyed those elements to get us additional content and keep us informed about what's going on and the mindset and mentality of specific players, especially in the heat of a game. As the XFL progresses forward and it gains notoriety, and as the games get more and more intense, these interviews could lead to some truly epic moments. Imagine if Kirk Cousins came out and said, "You like that," after a huge win for the Washington Redskins. Could you imagine how he would have felt after throwing like a game-tying touchdown? That would have been pretty sick. Now, we didn't get a moment like that, but that is bound to happen. So really quickly, I just wanted to get your guys' opinions. I'm thinking of streaming some XFL games on this channel. Let me know in the comment section down below if you'd be into that. And if you are, make sure you subscribe and turn notifications on so you know when I go live. We made a video this past weekend on potential players that could eventually joined the XFL, and we actually received an update on two of those players, one of those players being Johnny Manziel, the other player being Colin Kaepernick. And I understand a lot of you guys have been hoping for Tim Tebow as well. I'm going to try to provide you guys with a little bit of an update on Tim Tebow at the very end as well. So let's start out with Johnny Manziel. And when we were talking about Johnny Manziel before, I told you what the problem with Johnny football was. Yes, he brings a lot of clout. He is a well-known figure in college football. He didn't have a successful NFL career. And honestly, if you want to know why he didn't have a successful NFL career, I highly recommend you watch Set the Edge's video on Johnny Manziel, because he hit it right on the dot. The reason why Johnny Manziel didn't have a successful NFL career was his improvisational style didn't work in the NFL, and he wasn't fast enough to continue to scramble whenever plays would break down. He got exposed in the NFL, for lack of a better term. But in the XFL, he could potentially have an opportunity to captivate audiences once again. Obviously, this would be Johnny Football's last chance at creating a career for himself based off of football, but it would nonetheless still be a reason for fans to tune in the springtime. So the last time Johnny Manziel played was for the AAF last spring, but of course we know what happened with the AAF. They ended up folding in less than a full season. Nonetheless, Manziel still has a desire to play football, although he wants to play for a league that won't fold. Manziel was recently asked on Twitter if he would soon join the XFL, and this is according to Sharian Williams of NBC Sports. Manziel tweeted out, "Comeback season is still alive if y'all ain't know. Just not playing for another league that's going to fold on you midway through the season. If I never pick up a ball again, it's all love. I was the most lit, most relatable college football player to ever do it. Did things my way and made it way further than I ever could have imagined. The game gave me life, and I'll forever be thankful." The XFL would certainly be an attractive option for Manziel, as the league is looking to attract or cultivate star players that will compel fans to tune in, as they should, because they're a startup football league. And currently they do have limited star power. In the AAF, we saw a lot of familiar faces, such as Trent Richardson, Christian Hackenberg, Zach Mettenberger, obviously the most recognizable player being Trent Richardson. But if you look at the list of players that the XFL has, yeah, I recognize some of these players. Aaron Murray, who was in the AAF last year, Josh Johnson, who used to be a backup for the Washington Redskins, Matt McGlone, who was the starting quarterback for the Oakland Raiders prior to Derek Carr getting there. And yeah, he's had some okay games, but he was more well known for what he did in Penn State. Cardale Jones, who's the starting quarterback for St. Louis, who's probably the most recognizable player over here because of his winning of a NCAA national championship with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Landry Jones, who has had a shaky career for the Pittsburgh Steelers in of itself. So in order to survive, the league needs to attract or cultivate star players that will compel fans to tune in. Johnny Manziel still moves the needle, but the XFL has inexplicably ignored him. Colin Kaepernick, on the other hand, would be worth every single penny that he would command. And Oliver Luck, the CEO of the XFL, aka Andrew Luck's daddy, went ahead and gave a comment on whether signing Colin Kaepernick was feasible and where they currently stand in their pursuit of him. So Oliver Luck had a conversation with NPR on Saturday that the league spoke with Colin Kaepernick's representative about Cap potentially joining the XFL, but the two sides couldn't come to an agreement on salary demands. And this is something that Oliver Luck has said in the past, and this is something that Colin Kaepernick is notorious for in the past, because when he was trying to negotiate something with the AAF, he demanded that he got paid $2 million per game for a salary of $20 million. And if you just think about that, man, this is a startup football league. To give you an idea, Vince McMahon is literally funding $500 million to the startup football league to try to get 3 seasons to go down. And they're going to be taking loss after loss after loss until the league has some recognition and hopefully if some quality football is played. So Oliver Luck came out and said about Colin Kaepernick, we gave it some thought. We have some pretty significant salary restrictions, We're a startup league, so we want to make sure that we can be fiscally responsible and fiscally prudent. And the, salary requirements that some folks, shared with us were, in our case, exorbitant. So we, couldn't go down that path. He added that we spoke with his representative, and the salary requirements that were broached in that conversation were exorbitant and certainly out of our range. Look, if you ask me, I feel like a Colin Kaepernick-like splash, although it wouldn't be Colin Kaepernick, I feel like a player of that caliber is definitely in the realm of possibility in the XFL once they get out of the startup phase, once they start making money, and once revenue sharing kicks in. That's when the XFL can start to bring in the Colin Kaepernicks and, maybe start tempting some former NFL players like Michael Vick or some, retired NFL players that clearly can't play at NFL intensity anymore. They could tempt them to come out of retirement and play in the XFL. It's something that the Big 3 League does for basketball, where they get retired where they get retired NBA players to come in and play 3-on-3 basketball. I feel like something similar could be done in the XFL because the speed of the game, although it's quicker, the players are not as physically imposing. I don't think it'll be as physically tasking on the body. It'll be a good way for some NFL players to make money if they need to still make money, and the fans would tune in. I personally would tune in to see a 46-year-old Terrell Owens play in the XFL. I just would find that entertaining, and I'm sure you would too because you recognize who Terrell Owens is. But at the same time, the XFL could do another thing that would greatly and dramatically increase the value of its product, and that's poaching players from the NCAA prior to them really making it into the NCAA. They did cite that they were interested in players like Trevor Lawrence, and although I don't think they could tempt Trevor Lawrence to leave Clemson to come play in a startup football league in its first year because, startup football leagues have had a history of folding, I feel like down the line they could definitely poach some recruits from the NCAA because they would be able to pay these players as opposed to the NCAA, who wouldn't be paying them a single penny. Now, finally, I got some comments on Tim Tebow in our last video, whether I think he would come back, and I just wanted to briefly touch up on this. As far as I'm concerned, and as I've done my research, there hasn't been an update about this in about over a year. And the XFL is clearly extremely interested in bringing Tim Tebow aboard. I feel like Tim Tebow could easily be an incredible face for this league, considering the fact that he would still be able to employ that same play style that helped him succeed at the University of Florida. And I have no doubt in my mind that he would also dominate. The problem is, I don't think Tim Tebow is interested in returning to football. Yes, he's currently in the minor league, and it's kind of unfortunate because I hope he succeeds. He seems to be a player that's going to be a career minor leaguer if he continues to play in the minor league. And of course, he's going to continue to play in the minor league if he wants to, because the team that employs him views him as a huge draw for the box office. Like, people will pay to go to a minor league game to watch Tim Tebow. So until he decides that he loves football again, I don't think he's going to go to the XFL. But I hope something changes, because that would make for a very entertaining product. Now, guys, if you want to get your latest and greatest NFL news and XFL news, make sure you subscribe to my new channel, Mikerophone. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'll catch you guys later.